I don't like it. I'd shave it tomorrow. I'm going to a country concert. And the big thing there is like to dress like outrageously. I've never grown out facial hair, like mustache, whatever before. So I'm like, if there's ever a time where I want to like see myself with a mustache, now's the time to do it. Like I have a good excuse to, so I'm gonna do it. But I think I'm gonna shave it immediately after that country concert.
I
So
feel like the mustache would be good. It's just
you don't like
this
the
part.
goatee?
No, I hate that part actually.
Really?
Yeah, if there was one thing that I hate, it's a goatee. It's so horrid. What are you
It's
drinking?
That's a brew dog.
A local beer.
It is, yeah. Brewed in Ohio, baby. I'm in Ohio, by the way,
Oh, you
right
are?
now. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh, you're an hour behind. This is probably so nice for you.
I'm so used to having conversations with people who don't know people from Miami. So I don't know, it's different. We're not in the little bubble anymore. It's crazy.
It is really crazy. I think what's like the craziest part of it is like I kind of forget what it's like living in our bubble. You knew everyone, like you could walk into somewhere and like you just knew everyone. And
Yeah.
now it's just like you walk into anywhere and you're like, okay, well, I don't even barely know the person I'm standing next to that I came here with.
It seriously, it's like you're putting at least getting into industry, like starting off your job. It's like you're a freshman again. It's
Yeah.
like I just got through 4 years to the point where like I don't need to be a freshman anymore, but no, now
Mhm.
I'm a freaking freshman again and I have to like act like it, like join all these clubs, like
Dude,
do all that
I've been
bullshit.
meeting people in the weirdest ways. I was at the dentist and I was talking to her about small talk.
Mhm.
And she was like, oh, you're from Georgia based on your records. And I was like, yeah, I lived there for a while, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, how have you been making friends? And I was like, oh, through kickball, blah, blah, blah. And ultimately, she invites me to join her volleyball league. And so I joined my dental hygienist volleyball league. And then I'm like talking to the people on the team after the game. And one of them is a recruiter in the biotech industry for engineers. And I was like, is this real life? The connections that you make are so weird and random.
Yeah. Well, and you're really good at that kind of stuff. Like you're like from the get-go, you can tell like you're fun and you're kind of like an extrovert type of person. So like conversations for you, especially making those quick connections are super easy. I would argue that I'm not as good with that or not as good as you. You're a freaking pro with that.
Thank you.
But yeah, like so it's just about like using whatever you're best at to your advantage, right? So like
Yeah.
if that's the way that you connect, like absolutely 100% keep doing that because it will work out. If it doesn't work out this time, it will work out.
Everyone, I would like to welcome McLean Brown, my third favorite Texan after. Okay, I'm going to actually redo the list because I'm going to say Matthew McConaughey is first, and then my cousin, and then you. Okay, that's still a good order. And
Okay.
honestly,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have to respect, like, how does it feel to be breathing the same air as Matthew McConaughey?
I'm not gonna lie. So the air is a little hot down there. So for starters, I'm getting down there during the worst time of year. But honestly, if that's the worst time of year for Texas, like I can totally take it. But I've not seen Matthew McConaughey yet, or really anybody famous. But we did go see Joe Rogan. He's a big Austin, Texas guy. Apparently he
Isn't
lives like houses away from McConaughey, or he has a house away, a couple houses down from McConaughey.
me and my love for Matthew McConaughey welcome you to AA. Very excited to have you on. And I brought you on because I modeled my entire like professionalism after you, really, which is like high honor if you ask me, because I get praise on my LinkedIn all the time. People are like, oh, wow, you did such a great job. I'm like, actually, you can thank McLean Brown and Associates. Explain like your setup for your LinkedIn because it's not just your standard, like everything's intentional.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now just so I have something to like reference and go off of. And so originally I did have a little bit more professional of a photo. Now I've got like a cityscape in my background. It's a little bit more bold. But I feel like working in tech, I'm working with all these like founders and CTOs at startups. So like market disruptors. And that's like what I see a lot of times on their accounts. So I just recently changed that over. And then Amazon says that we have to have like an Amazon background. So that's what I have in my background.
But when you were in college, it was like your headshot that they took. I don't know if you got it done by student services or if that was your fraternity headshot. And then like the Miami background, right?
Yeah. So it was the College of Engineering and Computing at Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, it was I don't think it was on campus. I think it was through a student org that I was a part of that took the headshot. But yeah, like professional.
Mm-mm-mm. And then for your bio, like I literally think I copy and pasted your bio and just put whatever I was gonna put for mine, like what was applicable to me.
Yeah, I would highly recommend. So, like, include in your bio like your next steps and kind of like your passions. That's what I would go with, and it like that's probably what took me some of the longest. Like, that might be like the single item that took me the longest. Like, work out and iterate on the different words that I use and everything, and then just make sure you have like people look it over. So like spelling errors, make sure everything makes sense, and don't use words that are like totally out there, like thesaurus, everything. Don't do that. Make sure it makes sense and like people can understand it. That's my recommendation there for the bio.
Honestly, the bio is hard, and I think I'm really good at writing Instagram captions. That's like what I pride myself on. And so I'm really good at wordplay. I'm really good at being concise, and I'm really good at saying things that I want to say. But for whatever reason, my bio just gave me so much anxiety. I was like, I literally have no idea what I accomplished. I have no idea what I want to accomplish. And I'm just out here.
From like the entire LinkedIn perspective, it's a lot like I almost attribute it to like politics, right? So it's
Mhm.
like BS that nobody truly cares about, right? But you still have to come off like professional and likable and everything in that regard. So that's that's I mean, if you looked at my LinkedIn, it's like, oh my God, this guy's gonna like run for office or some shit like that.
Honestly, no, it's so true. Because then even when you scroll down to the bottom of your page, you have your experience, but like this is something that you did that I copied, obviously. It was like you linked everything to an external source. So it was like you were referencing your own stuff. But when it's just like the extra effort, like the extra mile that you were willing to go.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it might be tech a little bit focused, but like I get people sliding in my LinkedIn DMs all the time, like offering me different positions and roles, and I really don't give them a whole lot of like time of day. I'm happy where I'm at right now, so I'm not like looking externally. But yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to that. So like just being able to show that you're willing and able to go the extra step. So if it's like even on something as stupid as your LinkedIn, right? You're going to be able to translate that over into your job. And that's what I think a lot of recruiters are looking for.
That's very true. And then at the bottom of your page, do you have any like endorsements?
So the recommendation I was given there, basically it was like, hey, like you're in college right now, is like geared towards like kids in college. And
Mhm.
it's like, you're in college right now, sit down in class, have all your buddies like endorse you. Like there's nothing against it. So endorse, like, I think my highest ones are like leadership, project management, communication, whatever. And then there's like do it for your buddies too, because it does nothing but help in the long run. So yeah, I highly encourage using those. Trying to think.
Where did you learn all this information? Just on your own, like self-taught?
Yeah, a little bit. I would say so. I was in the I was in Theta Tau, the engineering fraternity on Miami's campus, and they went through did some professional development things, and that's what got me thinking about like, all right, so how do I look from a professional standpoint, resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, all that sort of things. And there were a couple of things that they said that were like absolutely wrong. So
Mm,
um, I just it was kind of like once I was like, all right, this should be a focus. Like I should start looking into that. Um, Started to like search out those different resources that were online. I mean, they're everywhere. But yeah, I started to look at those and then kind of like merge all the different recommendations into one. And ultimately that's where I came to my LinkedIn, my resume, my cover letter, everything.
my cover letter, I'm not confident in it. I
Uh-huh.
hate submitting it because I'm like, people are so creative. Like I've seen people on like LinkedIn dress up as DoorDash drivers and deliver their resume as like DoorDash Uber Eats order thing. And I'm like, who are you and why are you so creative? Can you spare us some jobs? I literally just, I'm here begging and I literally have no idea what to write.
So let me make sure this website is still public. So actually you can Google this right now. So theyoungprofessional.biz. It's actually an online. So this was going to be a side hustle of mine for a little while, and I'm still like,
Mhm.
but basically I've got like tutorials because I knew that this was like,
Wait, when were you going to mention that?
well, I was wondering when it was going to come up organically in the conversation. I figured it would, but what it is it goes through like the different steps because I knew that that was kind of like a strength of mine, right? I helped
Mhm.
out a lot of people at Miami within engineering and outside of engineering, crafting their resume, all that kind of stuff. So I just created like these short videos on like there's one on the resume, one on the cover letter, and I go
Mhm.
through like all the tips and tricks that I've kind of come across over the years and then
Mhm.
also how I would recommend going about it in the future. Theyoungprofessional.biz. You got it.
I love that. And I'm so excited for you. That's so awesome. I completely agree. You're going to absolutely crush it with that.
Yeah, if I get bored at work, I go through like dry spells where I'm like really
Mhm.
engaged at work. And then when I'm like, all right, screw work, I want to be really engaged with something else. So like this website was like, all right, I was like engaged with something else, but now I'm in the mindset where I'm like really engaged with work right now. So this is
Mhm.
taking like the back seat currently.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of how I started the podcast because it was like you and I are both very creative thinkers and we like creating things. And I think, especially, like that's something that you're probably missing from engineering is being able to create and do things. Like, at least that's what I was missing. Being able to create and do something and see something tangible is just there, it's indescribable. And it's just a feeling of absolute bliss when you get to see your end finished product. And
Mhm.
so I'm genuinely so excited for you. And I can't say I'm surprised that this is something that you're doing because you're a perfect fit for this role. Like, I'm literally interviewing about professionalism. Like, that's how much you resonate to me with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Back to LinkedIn and people messaging you. How do you interact with? I don't think that you used LinkedIn to get your job, did you? I think so.
No. So I guess a little bit of recommendations there is get your first job and then it's like domino effect from there. Like your first leads to your second to third, all the way. This is my biggest recommendation is everybody comes in with their own network and whether they're good at like utilizing it or not, they know all these people from high school. You come from college with all these different people that you know and their networks too. So, I mean, think about like for you, Sarah, and for myself at Miami, how many people were like one person away from like a huge title position at this extra company
Mhm.
or this extra company, this like huge company. And it's like a company that you want to work for someday. So don't be afraid to like reach out and be like, hey, I'm really, really interested in having a conversation with your aunt, your father, your mother, whoever. And as long as you present it in a way like I've done my research, I'd be a good candidate. Like these are the questions I have about the company. Hopefully, I mean, it should work out, right?
Mhm.
So I would go into it with that mentality. And then if you don't have that personal connection, then you can hit LinkedIn. And my
Mhm.
recommendation is find some similarity between you and whoever you're reaching out to. So like you can go in and go through like so go to your college homepage. So for us, for example, it'd be Miami. And then you can go to alumni and then search by the company. So if you're really interested at working at Tesla, you can search Tesla and see all the different alumni that
Mhm.
work at Tesla that went to Miami. So I mean, right there, you've got a talking point. You can have a coffee with this person and talk about nothing but your college days, and they would love it because they've been in
Mhm.
industry for however long. And then another recommendation I have there too is if you're having trouble like traction reaching out to somebody and having them reply, like let's say in like engineering, because engineers don't get on their LinkedIn's like at all. Hit up somebody in sales because they're always on their LinkedIn's. So those are my two recommendations.
That's actually such a good idea. I've never heard the sales thing, but that's so true. Honestly, when I was going through the process, I had no qualms messaging or cold messaging anyone on LinkedIn that I didn't know, that I had no connection with. The problem, and I don't know why I had such a mental block with this, was that I thought that asking for a connection was asking for a handout. And so I was always hesitant to ask people that I knew for connections. I just want to point out that nepotism exists and there's no reason to shy away from it. And there's no shame in connecting with somebody else. Like, networking is hard. it is not easy. Not everyone can do it. And if you're willing to do it, it's not you asking for a handout. That's you showing that you're willing to go the extra mile to get this job that you really want. And I never viewed it that way. And now being an adult in industry for only a year, I've seen that. And I really realized how much I probably missed out on by not networking because I was too embarrassed or ashamed thinking that it was just a handout.
Oh yeah, 100%. And think about too, if somebody were to reach out to you on LinkedIn, Sarah, and be like, hey, I'm a junior at Miami and I'm really interested in plumbing. Right? It's my life's passion.
Super.
Yeah. Like, do you mind having a chat about like what, your company's doing, like how you like your job, that sort of a thing? Like 100%, you're going to say yes. 100%.
Right. Yeah, because I love to talk to people and I love helping people. Like, and I don't know why I didn't put myself in the other side of the position or other role. I love talking to people about stuff that I care about. And if they want to care about it, hell yeah.
And I think that's more like the case with a lot more people than, I guess, people who are applying to positions like think, right? They're like, oh, I'd be a bother if I reached out. And like, yeah, okay, maybe to some people you are, but like, who cares? Like, you don't really.
And also, if you're bothered, they just won't answer. Like, they don't care. They just won't answer. And that's fine. The amount of cold emails that I sent out, I should probably look through my email list because it is embarrassing. I've probably sent, let's just do a nice even, probably sent out like 1,000 emails. Probably 800 left unread. 200 probably responded. And then of those 200, actually like followed up with me to see if like that was actually something I wanted to do. Maybe 50.
Oh, Sarah, I'm working in sales right now. The amount of cold emails I send out and I don't get any replies, you have no idea. Like 800 some weeks a week, like, yeah, I totally get it.
But yeah, so outside of LinkedIn though, like how do you maintain, because I'm sure that these people, like if you're messaging people from sales, like Google you, what comes up when you Google your name?
It's actually a really good question. I saw it on there and I had no idea. And with my name, it probably is only stuff about me. So we got Cody McLean Brown. Honestly, nothing really comes up. Oh, McLean E. Brown, my LinkedIn is like the sixth thing that pops up.
I just Googled you. It's some guy, and for all of your pictures, it's some guy in glasses. Looks like a chef.
Apparently, I'm not cool enough. So from that point of view, I think one of the questions that you had prepared was like, do I have a professional website? I think that was like a buzz for a little while, especially for like maybe CS majors, but I don't think it's needed whatsoever.
I like it just because when you type in my name, that's the first thing that comes up.
Oh, okay.
Instead of, because I own my domain name, like my name. So when you Google my name, it comes up. And for whatever reason, I like my website because like I made it really personable because I feel like LinkedIn's a little bit too serious. And so I feel like this is like my personal, like my MySpace version of my LinkedIn.
And I'll have to say, so different companies, it works differently, but my resume that I applied to Amazon with was more so like a MySpace version of my resume, because there's certain companies, that are really, really interested in hiring like the individual. So like your experiences and everything, like that's great information. You need to have that there to back it up as well. But like I had an entire section that was like interests and hobbies in my resume. And I would say I spent more than half of my interview talking about that.
Oh, same. I have 3 things listed at the bottom of my resume, and it's like fun facts. And it was ran the Marine Corps marathon, created a CNC machine, volunteer for Girls on the Run. And when I was interviewing for the company I currently work for, I interviewed with the president of the company. We ran the Marine Corps marathon, the Marine Corps marathon on the same day. Like,
oh, no shit. That's awesome.
Insane. I completely agree. Having something that sets you apart, because we were engineers, like all engineers had the same basic qualifications. Like we all took the same classes, essentially had the same internships, really all doing the same stuff. Why hire you? Because you're cool, you're fun, you're exciting, you like doing X, Y, and Z.
And the only caveat to that is if you're applying to like a very, very businessy, so like Deloitte, any of those, McKinsey,
the Big Four.
Yeah, I would maybe shy away from that. But other than that, just kind of like send it, especially if you know that your resume is going to be like read by somebody. If it's to that point in the interview process, if it's going to be a human, like absolutely, I send it
Mhm.
with that.
And then with resumes, like, are there buzzwords that there should be? Like, because I've seen people be like, oh, I put in the margins, like the buzzwords from the job posting, and I just put them in white so that the computer catches them. And I'm like, does that work?
I've actually never heard that before, but there are. So like when you apply to a company at first, it does run it through like different like computer like algorithms to be like, all right. And if they don't meet minimum qualification to the job posting, a lot of times they'll just like kick it out. So like for that first, if you're like doing like a cold application, this is fine. This is all that my website talks about. This is actually really funny. So if you're doing like a cold application and you don't know anybody at the company, yeah, absolutely go from the job description and then kind of work backwards from that. And I don't know if in white in the margins that would work all the time because a lot of them might convert it over into like an image or like a PDF
Mm,
and then scan text. So it might
mm.
not scan things that are like listed in white in the margin. So just be cautious of that.
Yeah, I think I was going through a lot of Instagram reels when I was applying for jobs. I would say
Mhm.
TikTok, but again, I think I'm way above TikTok and I think I'm so much better than everyone that has it.
Yeah.
Um, so just never use it. But anyways, so Instagram reels. And I saw that like as a tip from people. I was like, that can't possibly work. I'm not buying that.
I don't know. I know for a fact, like for a cold application, they will look at like similarities. And to the point when I applied to AWS, I applied to like a non-technical internship. So basically anybody who's not computer science, like computer engineering, whatever software, they like scanned my resume and placed it in the sales intern bucket. So then that's how I got into sales.
That's
It's
so
like
interesting.
yeah, even mechanical engineering at Amazon. Like, think about how many different applications there are, like the data warehouses, the
Mhm.
distribution centers. Like, there's multiple places where like they hire mechanical engineers. But no, from my resume, they placed me with the sales. I will say that a lot of my organizational experiences, so like I was secretary at that point in time for a couple different student orgs, and then I was president for one. There's a lot of like communication, kind of a lot of those buzzwords. So like soft skills. And I think that's ultimately how I ended up in the sales trajectory for AWS.
So how did you kind of take your experiences? Because I feel like that was also really hard for me taking an experience that I had, and I was like, okay, well, I know what I gained from this, but voicing it in a professional manner for it to come across as something valuable to somebody else.
For this one, especially for engineers, but still other majors as well, use as many numbers as you can in those like bullet points. Star format, absolutely. Like I guess I'll open this up so like anybody can go look at my LinkedIn, Claney Brown, and just like look at the structure. So the specific verbs that I use, but like those make a big difference. And I'm trying to think. Let me pull up
No, I
one.
know exactly what you're talking about because people are like, you need to put value to what you're saying and back it up with data. So, like, if you increased user usage on your platform by 80%, you should list that. But my
Mm,
question is like, how are we calculating all of these
You're not.
stats? Like,
You're
where
not.
where are these coming from? Am I supposed to ask my manager if I'm doing like he's gonna be like, why are you asking me this?
Oh my
What do
God,
you need this information for?
you're literally feeding into like the videos that I posted. So this is awesome. Basically you don't keep track of that. And if you do, great, like list the numbers, everything. But most of the time you're not. So like throw a guess. Nobody has any idea. The people you're interviewing with, you'd say you did $100 million sale at Amazon Web Services. They're like, oh my God, that's awesome. It could be an absolute lie. They have no idea, which I wouldn't recommend lying by any stretch of the imagination. But like throw a guess on there. Like if there's like a place where you could have a number, throw a guess on there. And if you're really, really concerned, you're like I'm struggling with that, morally or whatever, then I guess go to your manager, somebody who you worked with, and you're like, do you think like this is an accurate assessment? But at the end of the day, don't lie. Only put things on your resume that you'd like be comfortable speaking to, but put numbers on there. Throw a guess. It doesn't matter.
Because I was revamping my resume recently and I have some places that I need to just put numbers, but for whatever reason, as soon as it's on print on my resume, I'm like, holy, I can't do that. That's sin. I can't, it's cardinal rule. I'm gonna go straight to hell for putting that on my resume because I am not exactly sure. Like I think that must just be the data driven part of my brain that's not allowing that to happen.
And that's the crazy part of it too. So for everybody out there actually listening to this podcast, be able to talk about it. And yeah, you can embellish it a little bit, right? Like you're trying to get hired at the end of the day, right? So this 30-minute, hour-long call that you're having will mean nothing in 3 years when they're paying you, right? So
the thing is, I know what I can and cannot do. So I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I'm an A+ coder. I know how to code in C++, SQL, Java, when I cannot, because I will show up on the first day and I will look like Boo Boo the Fool.
no, and
Because
that's fair too. So my whole thing and what I say like on the website, my videos is never put anything that you wouldn't be like comfortable to speak to.
no, but that's no really good advice, because that was something that I still struggle with today on how to put numbers and statistics to things that you've accomplished and achieved, because you're so right. People do want to see the data. They do want to see numbers. And you're right. They don't care. They just need to exist, because they're ultimately they're not going to remember the statistic. They're going to look at it and be like, oh, this person like contributed a good amount of work doing X, Y, or Z. And that's indicative by this value, even though it may be something that you guesstimated. An upward trend is an upward trend, and seeing a number that represents that only voices what your words are actually saying. That takes care of like the resume section, trying to be unique. But with the cover letter is a whole nother beast. And I've seen some crazy creative cover letters, whereas my cover letter, I'm like, okay, so one time I like engineering, and I please hire me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, girl, figure it out. I think I'm very well spoken and not very well written. And it kind of stinks for me in that sense, because it's hard for me to get the interview. But once I get the interview, it's like perfect, bang, bang, bang. Like, why was that so hard everywhere else? But yeah, so like, what's your recommendation with the cover letter business?
Cover letter is like a gray area, I feel like, for a lot of people. You can take it like a lot of different routes. The way that mine is currently structured is I go through, it's basically like the first little like paragraph, probably like 4 or 5 sentences, is like a synopsis of my resume and kind of like my interpretation of it. That's where it's more so I learned X, Y, and Z from this experience. I learned X, Y, and Z from this experience, blah, 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 this experience. And then I kind of close it out. And I'd like to bring those to this company in this way. Right. And then this is where you can kind of stand out and be a little bit more personal. So you can speak to the company maybe on a personal note. It's like, yeah, I first heard about you doing this here, there, whatever. And I always throw in, I mean, I don't even know if they look at cover letters, if I'm being 100% honest. So I use all my buzzwords in the first paragraph, but I always throw in like, I've been a shareholder since however long, just like show like, I don't know, I've got a little bit of background with the company. And like I said, usually when I say that I've been a shareholder before, when I like write that down, I might not be a current shareholder. So that there's a little gray area there. But yeah, and then I just talk about like how I viewed the company and how it's been awesome and why I want to apply.
I really like what you just said there, about having this shareholder stake. I really like that. I've never heard that before. Because I mean, obviously, if you're a shareholder, you've been following the company and you've done your diligence on the company and you know about the company. And so that's ultimately like the biggest flex, because it's like, yeah, I've done my research and I'm so confident in this company. I've put my own money into it and I don't even work for you yet. But also, like, it's not like you being up their ass about like, oh, I love that you do this, and this. Do companies really want to read that? Do they really want to read their mission statement back to them?
Yeah.
Like, is that what they want? No, that's not. I like this. I like the shareholder thing though.
It is. Yeah, it's my little unique kind of play with it.
How do you come up with these things?
I think probably the first cover letter I wrote, I was a shareholder, and that was like one of the things I wanted to get across. And when I like went to write my next one, I used my first one as a model. I was like, delete. Like, I'm not, and I was like, wait, I kind of like that. And so
I love that.
I like kept it there. And I think for that one, I actually like purchased the company if I didn't hold it at that time, because I was like, I gotta be truthful here, honest, whatever. But that sense has died down a little bit.
Wait, I like that a lot. Even if you invest in like a quarter of a share or whatever,
Yeah, just
that's
buy a little bit.
still when you're talking about the experiences that you've gained from each of essentially the bullet points on your resume. How do you make the bullet points and what you're saying in paragraph form differ? Because I feel like they don't want to just hear an echo of what your resume is. They just read your resume.
So, yeah, when I'm like referencing the different companies, I more so reference the soft skills or like the overarching kind of ideals that I gained. So like when I was working for Cooper Tire, I was actually coding in MATLAB. Did I just give you a heart attack there, Sarah, with that word?
Honestly, I I remember you coming back from that internship and being like, "Oh, the MATLAB whiz," and I was like, "Just print line."
Yeah.
Like,
Um, but so like from that experience, I'd be like I learned actual hands-on coding skills for whatever the application.
after you have submitted your resume, you've submitted your cover letter, and you're doing like these cold emails on LinkedIn or wherever you may be doing them, like, do you recommend applying to the job first and then being like, hey, so and so, I just applied to this job, like, would love to hear about the application process? Or do you recommend messaging the person first and then being like, hey, so and so, did you just fart?
No, I cleared my throat.
Because I do that when I'm on work meetings and I'm like, mute. Anyways, hey, so and so, like, could you help me with getting my resume passed along to the right person? Like, do you do the before or the after message?
Definitely the latter. Definitely the latter. I know at Amazon in particular, I don't know how other companies work this, but at Amazon in particular, I actually applied to the position for you and I
Mm-hmm.
submit your resume on your behalf.
Oh,
That's the way it works. And if you apply to the position first, like I can't refer you. So I will agree that the former does show that like you've done a little bit more research, you've already identified a role. But if you're going to be reaching out being like, hey, I already applied to this position, just be like, hey, I'm really interested in this position. But I wouldn't even reach out with like a position in mind because then it gives you like, obviously you want something out of it, right?
mm-hmm.
So I would, if you're like reaching out to people, I would go for kind of the verbiage like, hey, I'm really curious what company X, Y, and Z does. And I'd love to know like how your role plays into that.
Yeah,
Do you
because
mind?
that's like the number one thing. It's gonna come to me later, but it's like essentially saying if you ask for advice, then they're more likely to give you an offer for something.
Yeah.
Whereas if you ask for a handout, then they're gonna be like, here's some advice. You know what I mean? So like you never go in asking for anything from a stranger besides for advice.
Yeah. And the other thing with like applying that I'll give a big recommendation for is submit to all the materials that it like gives you the ability to submit. So cover letter, resume, and a big one that you can also submit is your curriculum. And I always pronounce this incorrectly. It's like curriculum vitae, some like Latin phrase or whatever. But anyways, it's supposed to be like a comprehensive like view of yourself from a professional standpoint. So like literally all of your experiences. So not fit onto one page, doesn't have to be formatted like 100% crazy, just like everything you've ever done. And especially for the companies that do that scan, that initial scan, if they scan that document, it gives you a whole lot more words to use.
What is that?
I always have called it the curriculum vitae, but I think it's like viate. But a
Never
lot
heard of
of
it.
application platforms will give you like the ability to submit one. CV. Are you sure it's not
CV.
CV? It's
Yeah,
curriculum
CV.
vitae. Yeah.
That's what that is. So I can submit that.
And it can be 10 pages long if you want it to be. So if you're applying to a position and they say resume or the
CV.
CV, use your CV because it should be identical to your resume plus like different experiences. And then
Hmm,
you have that many more words to use when you're applying.
that's genius. Wow, I never knew that. The more you know. This is why you talk to McLean Brown,
The
the
more you know.
founder of the Young Professional Biz.
That's right. That's
Okay,
right.
so now that we've covered kind of how to get the job or how to network and how do you act when you get in person? So I know for me, and I know it's something that we touched on in the beginning here, but for me, it was kind of difficult when I first showed up to kind of draw a boundary or kind of a line in the sand with what's going on at the company and like how personal relationships were supposed to go. Because it was like, your boss isn't your professor. Like, it's not the same level of like respect immediately. Like, not that you don't respect your manager, but it's like your manager and you can be friends, but you can also be coworkers. Like, what's the dynamic? There's just so many different dynamics.
Yeah, and honestly, there's no good like blanket advice there. You just kind of have to feel it out, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
different managers will work differently, different coworkers will act differently. So like how you present yourself as far as like professionally, if you want to be friends with everybody, that's kind of something you have to decide on your own and kind of on a person by person basis. At least that's my take from it. That kind of
Yeah.
sums it for me.
Well, I came in here ripping and roaring, and I'm like, all right, who's ready to be my best friend? Ready or not? It's happening whether you like it or not. Yeah, so I took that approach and it went in both directions. It failed catastrophically, but also succeeded immensely. And I mean, I think it succeeded with all the people that I wanted it to succeed with. So,
And I will say for people who like are like willing to have that camaraderie in the workplace where like you can ping each other and just be like, are you kidding me? Like, do you see, whatever happened? Or did you hear what so and so said? Like if
mhm,
you're looking for that, somebody needs to make like the first move, you
mhm.
know? Like
It
it's not
can't be
just it.
you.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, somebody's got to do it though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean,
It's normally, it starts with like a look, like a, did you?
yeah, so I would suggest, I think you're absolutely right. You start off subtle and then somebody will do something, then you just like look around the room for whoever else is looking around the room, then you're like, yeah, you and I are on the same page. Like we need to chat after this.
Yeah, that's very true.
But especially if you're working virtually though, like that can be hard. So maybe if you're working virtually, you do have to be a little bit more boisterous about things. Just be like, yeah, like
What's up, Chad?
what yeah, what's up, Chad? Yeah, some shit like that. But
Were you virtual ever?
I'm virtual currently.
Really?
Yeah, I was in person technically, and you could work virtually. That was when I was in Seattle, and when I moved to Austin, I became a virtual employee.
Wow.
Yeah, so I still go into the office at least like once a week down in
Hmm.
Austin.
Hmm.
But like this being virtual gives me the ability to like come up to Ohio and like for like a long holiday weekend
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever,
so nice.
which is nice. Otherwise, that was potentially going to be like taken away from me. So I feel like I kind of got the best of both worlds. Like I can go into the office, meet
Hmm.
those people, and then I can be virtual.
Peace out. Bye.
Yeah.
Did you have to negotiate that or was that just given?
So I was one of the last people that they let do that. I got there just in time. Well, like they're the department
Okay.
that you submitted an application through. So I did that, got it approved, and then literally like a week later, they were like, we're gonna like slow down the acceptance of these applications. And I was like, like that's good because I had just signed for my place in Austin. I was like, thank God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That would have been crazy if they were
Mhm.
like, no, McLean Brown, X on that. Not today. But yeah, so like going back to workplace etiquette and trying to make friends, like what are the do's and don'ts? Because I feel like when I showed up, I had no idea of the structure of anything. I first didn't know where to park, didn't know when the lunch break was, didn't really know what time I was leaving because I started at 8. One would think 8 to 4. Nope, I get off at 5. Like no one blatantly came out and just said the rules of the road.
So for that sort of stuff, I think it's like a slow process. I mean, I think you did it the exact way that other people do it. And I really
Mhm.
don't think that there are any shortcuts around it other than just like asking people. Just be like, hey, do you guys usually work like 9 hours a day or like what is that, 45 hours a week? Just like ask them point blank and be like, they'll be upfront with you. They'll be like, yeah, that's typically like the process, or like, yeah, that's what so and so does. So like that's what I do. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, I think just like be willing to ask. Otherwise, like follow the leader.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I do all the time. I'm like, oh, my boss is out of office. I'm gonna be out of office.
Yeah, and once you work out like those relationships too, once you kind of like feel that out, then you can be like, all right, like I don't need to go in today, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
like with my manager, I just recently found out because we can like work overtime and we get paid time and a half. And so one of my friends from Seattle visited down in Austin, and I was like, all right, so question, how many overtime hours do you clock a week? And they were like, oh, like I clock like 10 hours of overtime. And I was like, well, shit, I've been sitting over here only clocking 5, like, or it was what, 4.5. I was like, I'm gonna start clocking like the time that I actually work. Like, hell yeah. Yeah. So the position I was hired onto, it's technically like an hourly wage or like job or whatever, which I'm totally fine with because I can clock overtime hours.
How often do you travel for work?
So I'm not supposed to travel all that much.
Mhm.
But I've been to Seattle in the past like 2 months twice. And then I'm
Wow.
going back, I know already in September. I just actually this is kind of cool. Um we have this idea. It's kind of like a Shark Tank thing where you present ideas to upper level leadership. So we presented, and was one winner from this. There were like 30 groups that presented. My team was chosen. So they're flying me out to Seattle, and I'm presenting to Adam Silipsky, the CEO of AWS. They're
So what
really
happens if they use your Shark Tank idea?
A couple of years ago, somebody from my team got funding like $3 million, and they were like, "All right, go start this. Like, go."
Wow. So
It's like
who developed it with you?
so. Actually, this was 100% my idea, and I was going to present it, and I like told my manager, I was like, hey, I think this is a good idea, but I'm not ready to present it for like this event because we were given like 2 weeks notice.
Wow.
I was like, I need to reach out to like these different people. And she's like, well, I've got these people on our team that wanted to like participate.
That's so exciting. Whoa. There's so many cool things going on for you. I'm very jealous.
I mean, it's
AWS,
just
man.
this just happened actually like 2 days ago.
Wow. So I'm one of the first to know. So when you go to like events like this, how do you travel, first of all? Like, do you have to wear AWS stuff? Like when I think of people traveling for work, I think of them like in suits, but then I also think of people that like travel for sports and their sports teams make them wear their like travel gear.
Uh-huh.
Like, do you have travel gear?
So so I worked for Marathon, and I traveled a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And their thing was don't wear any company logos because like sometimes they would have people travel to the Middle East, and that like puts a target on your back. Like that's an American with oil money. Like
Mm-hmm.
get him. Like people care about him. Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So it puts a target on your back, and like even apparently domestically, like maybe they'd steal that bag if it had a Marathon logo with your company laptop or whatever. Um, AWS hasn't really said anything about traveling. Whereas like
Mm-hmm.
Marathon, they sat us down because the job was mostly travel. They were like, this is how you
Mm-hmm.
travel. Don't do X, Y, and Z. With Amazon, they haven't really said anything. Um, and I've traveled with a company logo before, but most of the time, like AWS likes to like still keep startup vibes going. So even if I were to go into the office, most people are wearing like a t-shirt and like Lulu's or something like that. Like it's
Mm.
really casual. Jeans, yeah, whatever.
That's what people wear in the office.
100%, yeah. I can't bring myself to do that though.
What do you wear?
I usually wear like button down shirt and like nice pair of slacks, khakis, something.
You want to know what I wear?
What?
Vans, jeans, and a hoodie.
Vans? You wear Vans?
I wear Vans.
For
They're
real?
like cute though. They're like
Oh, they're cute.
multicolor.
Wait, do people dress up in the office?
No, I
Okay.
work in plumbing.
Okay. Hey, I don't fucking know. I worked at Marathon, and people fucking dressed up. Like there were people who wore ties.
Yeah, no. I mean, our
Like,
sales
dude.
guys do because they like, I don't know. But like, I just sit in front of my computer all day. I don't talk to anybody. Like I'll wear a company shirt when I go out and like do installs for our customers, but other than that, like, but yeah, like my boss wears the Lulu pants with Allbirds and a golf polo every day. No, but I think that's also kind of an art is like figuring out what to wear. Because in high school, I literally like I wouldn't wear the stuff that I wear to work. Like I wore skirts and dresses and I dressed
Vineyard
up
Vines.
Vineyard Vines,
And yeah,
Patagonia, Southern
I was the
Tides, like
same way. Uh-huh.
every day. And I would never in a million years wear Vans jeans and a t-shirt. yet that's what I wear to my professional job every day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm similar. I can't bring like I've got all these like work clothes because like the internships that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm like I look at my closet and I'm like, I have to like wear that because it's there. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do it. Might as well. Like I think it comes off good, well, right? I don't know. The only worry that I have is I don't want to like walk in and people like roll their eyes like, oh, this guy again. Everybody's wearing a t-shirt and whatever, and then I come in with a collared shirt. But I don't think it's like that at all. It's a little bit more for myself, like because once I do wear that too, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, fuck yeah, like I
Yeah, it's
look
time to
good,
get
I'm
shit
gonna
done.
do good, and like
Mm-hmm.
hell yeah, like let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
When
was
I'm
like my
working when I'm
motto.
working virtually though, I usually wear just like a t-shirt.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that
I'm
was,
also working mostly with startup customers too. So there's like that, and they don't give two shits.
no,
So
they don't give two shits.
yeah.
Coming from someone who works at a startup and
Yep.
wears a hoodie and jeans to work every day. Yeah,
Yep.
no. Um, no, that was like a big thing for me. Like my dad never let me wear like sweatpants or leggings to school. And it was always the mentality of dress well, test well. I mean, if you dress well, you're gonna just succeed because you're already in that mindset. Maybe that's what's holding me back at work. Maybe that's what I
There you
need to
go.
do. I'll just start wearing slacks to work with
Hey,
flats and chunky sweaters.
covered that workplace relationships. um Well, Sarah, maybe you should be the one speaking on this actually. But no, that was one of the reasons why I left Seattle. Not because like it got that bad, but all of my friends, like my group of friends were work friends, which
Mm,
they were totally awesome and everything like that, like nothing against them. But like I was just under the like I need to just branch out a little bit more.
right.
I was kind of like talking with this chick at work, and we went to this is like Halloween time. So like I kind of like just got to Seattle. But it was Halloween time, and we went to it wasn't like a corporate Halloween party. Somebody from work was like, I'm gonna invite everybody from like we're all the same age. We're all like 23, just graduated.
That's so
They're like,
nice.
it was. But they're like, we're gonna invite everybody from work and have just like this huge Halloween banger in my apartment. Like it was crowded as hell. And we're like, oh hell yeah. So we all went. Anyways, allegedly, I was in the middle of the room making out with this girl from work whom I worked with, and I didn't find out about it until because I didn't quite remember for whatever reason. I'm not
For
gonna
whatever reason.
say, yeah, yeah. But I didn't remember it, and I found out about it 2 weeks later from somebody else from work, and I was like, oh shit, like see,
Did
like
you
that's
send
the
her
kind
a
of
cookie
stuff.
cake that said sorry for making out with you like I did to you freshman year of college?
No, 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 no. I didn't. Maybe I should have taken that advice.
No.
Um, but yeah, that's where I was like in that situation. Yeah, I need to like branch out here, like meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
That's why going to Austin too. Austin was like a several different fold decision, right? There were a lot of different reasons for it. But that was like one of them. I was like, it'll get me to branch out, new
Mm-hmm.
people, new city.
I kind of came into Boston knowing that my work colleagues were not going to be my best friends because how could it be that I go to a company that's in plumbing that I have much in common with these people? Very low likelihood of that. And so I came in with the mentality of like that's not going to happen. And so I had low expectations, and honestly my expectations were well exceeded. Like I love my coworkers. Like
Mhm.
we call each other the cube rats. There's what 4 or 5 of us now,
Yeah.
and we're all like in our low to mid 20s, and it's fun. Like this is all of our first like few years of professional being young professionals, if you will, and just like all figuring it out together, and like just popping into their cube and being like, hey, what are you doing for like our annual review, like your 1 year review, like, what are you doing for that?
It was funny. One of the people I met down in Austin, she does sales for public sector. and she has friends who like I worked with. I was like, oh my God, like we know the exact same people from Seattle. And she was going into it and she was like, oh my gosh, you're a Seattle person. She's like, yeah, I heard that all you guys do is just like hook up with each other and like drink on the weekends. And I was like, oh my God, that's the perception of like that cohort. I was like, that's
so funny because
probably
it's
not
so
great.
true.
I mean, yeah, because I mean, we had graduated. There were literally 60 people. Imagine, Sarah, being hired on with 60 people who were exactly your age and who were salespeople. So like super outgoing, like extroverts, like let's go. It was nuts.
Honestly, you only made out with one. I wish I had that sort of reservation because I probably would have made out with 50 of the 60.
Well, I mean, half of them were girls, but I don't
Exactly.
know
My
that.
statement still stands. Like,
Fair enough.
I do not change what I said. The only workplace relationships that I've had have been through my side job. I work at a bar. I've had 2 relationships from that. But anyways, so I've had 2 workplace relationships. One of them was like very casual. Neither one of us cared very much about each other. And then the other one was we were like very into each other. The whole place knew that we were talking. And then we just like stopped. And now it's just really awkward to work.
See, and so that's what I couldn't do. That's where I was with AWS and like this one chick. So that's why I was like, I can't be doing that kind of shit at like professional job, like at a bar, like you know, who gives a fuck.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was like, well, who cares?
But like at my job, I was like, I can't have that. And like for God's sakes, if like anything were to be brought into HR for whatever, like it shouldn't, but like if anything were to be brought into HR, like that's just like not a mess I want to handle. So
dude, same. Like
even coming as a guy, I think vasectomies should be more so commonplace. I think you should get a vasectomy once you become like sexually active and you don't want kids, because apparently they're like really easily like
reversible.
Yeah, like I think like maybe you should just get it when you're fucking born, so you don't have to deal with it. You only have to deal with it like whatever. But
getting the reversal.
yeah, like honestly, if you just like knock me out and I didn't have to deal with like the recovery period, which I think is interesting, I don't even want to think about. But if I didn't have to deal with the recovery period, I'd have had a vasectomy today.
Have
like,
you ever looked at the IUD procedure?
Is that way easier?
They go inside of your vagina,
yeah,
and they like pierce I'm so bad at anatomy and it's pathetic because it's my own body. They like pierce
whatever
the ovary. I don't know, closed, pierce it.
Yeah,
no numbing, no nothing, no sedation.
See,
and
that's
they just say, hey, this is gonna be a little tight pinch, it's gonna be really painful. Okay, maybe fucking sedate me then.
That's what, like, if I didn't feel it and like, okay, maybe it was a little sore or whatever, like I'd get a vasectomy today, because I think that would just like solve, honestly, a lot of the world's issues. I think everybody should get a vasectomy.
I completely agree. Let's get on that train. So professionalism.
Only thing that I have is like, don't be shy about the whole interview process, networking, your LinkedIn. I think a lot of people have the perception they kind of like somebody brings up LinkedIn or networking, you kind of roll your eyes, but at the end of the day, it does get results. So give it its due merit, you know? And yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to people, because in general, it's like a, you know, human nature thing. They want to help out. So don't be afraid to extend that hand and ask for help. If you're interested in a little bit more, I guess I'll plug my website, theyoungprofessional.biz.
Ooh, yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate all of your insight and your knowledge. You're so wise on this subject. And I'm so proud of you for doing a new venture. That's so exciting. I can't wait to follow that journey. And I will be on it frequently because I need as much professional help as anybody else. But yeah, I'm so thankful that you were able to come on and talk to me about this.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate the invite.